Thank you. Okay, so everybody, before we start the education and learning session, can we just quiet all the conversation down, please? Can get the full attention in the front of the room would be great. So to start the education, before we start the education and learning session, we actually have a really, really special guest that is joining us. So I think I mentioned to you about Harry and Alex, who are from Ghana, that we really, really, really want to try to get them to join in person for the conference, but there was visa issues and other issues involved that we couldn't get them to join. But you know, Harry is with us virtually via Zoom, so maybe we can put Harry on the screen. This is me. I think everybody knows what I look like and is tired of seeing my face. What do you say? Harry, can you talk? Can you say something?
Yeah, hello, I can hear you.
Yeah!
David, are you there? Hey! Hello!
So Harry, I was telling everybody, actually, you know, it was funny, when we first put out the Facebook post to advertise this conference, I think you were one of the very, very first people to apply for this conference, actually. You were one of the very, very first people to apply. And is there a way for them to see Harry? Because he's...
Hello, can everybody see me? Hello, can you all see me? Oh, excellent.
So Harry, what we've been doing is, you know, every single morning we've been having an event called Hello World, where everybody just introduces themselves for 1 or 2 minutes. So Harry, everybody is here. We're so excited to see you. Do you want to introduce yourself to everybody? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm ready. So hello, my name is Harry Akligo, and I'm a graduate from the University of Health and Allied Sciences. I graduated with a degree in medical laboratory science. While in school, I started an organization called Practical Science Initiative. And what the organization sought out to do was to provide hands-on activities to junior high school pupils, specifically the girls. And this was because most girls were not performing very well in science, technology, engineering, and maths in school. So we wanted to create an environment for them to have hands-on experience in order to get them in order to motivate them to get the interest to want to this time when they move to higher learning level, scientists rise, and the young scientist girls into science. The project was divided into various segments where we help them to appreciate science. We had several mentors coming in to give a talk on what they have been doing in their various fields. We gave them hands-on experience, and it was great. For these kids, having an exposure like this was one of an experience for them. And most of these kids who are in deprived communities were very excited and wanted more of this. And we believe that in the near future, we want to create an environment where we have our own community lab. We are able to have things, get these kids to have hands-on experience, more hands-on experience in order to intrigue their creative minds and give them the experience to join the fields of STEM. So that's what we have been doing with Practical Science Initiative. Thanks for having me with you, and I'm very excited.
So Harry, just so everybody knows, Harry's on all of the, he's on the WhatsApp, he's on the Facebook group, and he's in the Google, all the Google Forms and everything. So Harry, you're with us. We love you, and we're thinking about you, and we're going to continue to work with you in the days and years and forever. We're going to keep working together and do awesome things. Okay?
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you work with us, and Practical Science Initiative is very excited and welcome anybody who is ready to partner with us and also to build a community lab to get more of these kids, do more hands-on science, and as a way of getting more females into STEM in Ghana and Africa as a whole. So we are excited to have you want to partner with us. Thank you, David, and thank you, the Global Bio Community team. I love you very much.
Thank you, Harry. One more round of applause for Harry. Woo. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Harry. And I think it's a fitting introduction and connection to our final session. I guess this is the final formal session of the thing, right? So Natalie, you're the closer. You're going to bring us home strong. So our host for the next session is just a force of nature. Natalie just makes things happen, organizes stuff, and builds big institutions that do awesome things. And so Natalie is the force behind the BioBuilder educational infrastructure. And Natalie, it's such an honor to have you with us and to be the lead of our next session. So everybody, welcome Natalie Dell.
Thank you, David. Wow, a pleasure to be here. Very, very nice. I'm going to take a page out of actually the mayor of Cambridge's book, and what she asks is that when she says good afternoon, she hears back great afternoon. So I'll say good afternoon. Great afternoon, indeed. So I am Natalie Dell, as you heard, and I am Executive Director of BioBuilder, which is a nonprofit organization. I'll take a few minutes to talk about that. But mostly, I'm just very happy to be coordinating this last session because we have some remarkable people who are doing tremendous work in education, thinking about teaching, thinking about learning in very special and very different ways. And so it is really a pleasure to share the energy and the inspiration of the works that they do, and also some of the experiences that they've had that led them to reach this point. And so how this will run is I will start with just some framing ideas about learning and about teaching. And then I will, as I say, briefly introduce BioBuilder to folks who may not know about it or may not know what's new with it. And then each of the speakers will have approximately 10 minutes to present their work. They should mention if they're going to do a breakout session or an unconference session so that the conversation can follow up. So we won't take questions now, but we will afterwards. And I think because each of us has gotten here both in sort of unexpected and unpredictable ways, and also as a consequence of really great mentorship and great teaching, I'm going to ask each of the folks who comes up to just say a word or two about some pivotal experience or person that led you to reach this sort of unexpected maybe moment of where you are in your professional careers. So, okay, so with that, let me start with just some comments, first about learning and then about teaching. This is a quote I found. I am always ready to learn, although I do not always like being taught. Does anybody know who said that? Could be anybody, right? No, it was Winston Churchill. I think that's actually a sentiment that's probably pretty common, though. And I think it's especially true when you think about teaching biology, because often biology is taught as a series of facts simply to be memorized and returned to the person who's teaching you in their pristine form, and that there are really traditionally very rare opportunities for student-led inquiry in life science especially. Okay, so that's one quote. This is about teaching. I never teach my pupils. I only attempt to provide the conditions in which they can learn. Any idea who might have said that? Any good teacher, right? All right. So that was Einstein. Now, I don't know that Einstein was a great teacher, I will say. But I do think that when you talk to really great teachers and you ask them what makes a great day in the classroom or what makes a great day of teaching, most of those teachers that I talk to at least talk about what it sounds like to be in that classroom or what the students are expressing or feeling or asking. I really have not met a lot of teachers that when you ask them what does a great day in the classroom seem like or what does a great day of teaching seem like, they say, well, I had this perfect slide that explained this, that, or the other, right? Most of the time it is what is going on with the students, the sound of the classroom, the activity in the classroom that's making the learning and the teaching really come alive. And so I know that that was true for me, and in the effort to sort of just convey a little bit about how we've all gotten to this point in our sort of professional careers and focusing on teaching. I liked science when I was in high school, but I never really thought I would go into science, and certainly not into science education. But when I was in high school, I got a chance to work in a real lab, a research lab, as a summer intern. And it really just changed the way I thought about science, because it really was so exciting to go in every day and look at what the experiment from the day before, what those results were. It was much more about problem solving and puzzle solving than it was about what was already known. And so really my just professional career has been directed towards making that authentic scientific experience just more and more accessible. I am a scientist by training, not an engineer, and yet I ended up in an engineering department here at MIT, the Department of Biological Engineering, and found engineering to be a very powerful way to teach science. And so the content that I developed within the Department of Biological Engineering at MIT is collected at a site called biobuilder.org with the eagerness to just bring it out into a broader world. It is also collected into a textbook that's been published by O'Reilly. I have two things to say about it. One is that the amazing illustrator for the textbook is here, Karen Ingram. Karen, can you just give a wave and maybe stand up? Yeah. Yeah. If you have not met Karen or talked to Karen, you absolutely have to before you go. She is incredible. It has been one of the great pleasures of my work on this book to be working with her. Really, the way she thinks about conveying the information it just changed the way I think about how I teach it, and it was really a wonderful partnership. She's terrific, and I do think her work is beautiful. The book I have a copy of here, and I believe that there is a BioBuilder card taped to one of the chairs that's in here, and if it is taped to your chair, you can come up and grab this book at the end of this session. It is not there, you guys. You get the joy of being up here. So. Some of the content that you might find on the website or in the book, one of the experiments that the students do is based on the banana scent generating bacteria from the iGEM project of a few years ago, and students are asked to compare two competing designs for which one makes banana scent in a particular phase of growth. Really, the agents of change for BioBuilder, though, are the teachers. So teachers come to BioBuilder, really develop the content and deliver the content. I train them through professional development workshops, and they are such a joy to bring this content out into the world. They are the ones who have modified the work to make it into a middle school program called BioBuilder Junior. They are also the ones that run at their home schools, or at their high schools, something we call the BioBuilder Club. It runs from October to March. Students meet after school in a sort of iGEM-like experience where they design and some of them build biotechnologies. We pair them with science mentors and engineering mentors, and that runs from, as I say, October to March. And then locally, I run an apprenticeship challenge in which actually I directly train high school students for summer internships. These are students from under-resourced schools or who identify as economically disadvantaged. And then they get a leg up in terms of interviewing and being placed into summer biotech experiences. Jobs. So this is the one sort of workforce development piece that I do. The last thing I'll say about BioBuilder is a very exciting initiative that we have just launching, and I really mean just launching. We have a lab that's opened inside of an entrepreneurial community called Lab Central. It's just down the street. There are 25 startup companies there, and now we have a teaching lab in that setting with the hope of bringing science education into a place where science is actually happening, sort of going back to my roots and feeling like now that I know how science is actually done, it's a lot more fun. So bringing what we do into a place where companies are being built, where the science and engineering is actually happening. So with that, I have some contact information up here, but what I would like to do is turn the platform over to the wonderful folks who are really making up this session. Let me just introduce each of them very briefly and then have them come up and give their talk. I have Proman Khan, who's going to be talking about the Tech Academy, which is in Bangladesh. And Proman, I don't know if you're here, but if you can come up, you'd be the first up. The next up would be Jean-Michel Molinar talking about how to grow almost anything. For those of you who don't know, it's part of a Bio Academy. It's a new educational platform that's combining faculty from many universities and labs and companies to teach applications and implications of synthetic biology. And then, oh, this is not quite in the right order, but we have Niek Dant, who has E. coli, a science activities for classrooms and underprivileged groups who will be speaking. We have Synthetic Biology 1, which Jake Wintermuth will be speaking about. This is a free and open and online course in synthetic biology with video instructions, and he's be looking for input. And then we have Kim Moura and also Thomas Landrain talking about the iGEM outcomes from the community lab program and some of the amazing projects that have come out of that. And then we have Connie Chow, who has been working, I've actually known Connie for a number of years, and you were from Science Club for Girls even more recently, but now she has a new project called the Exploratory for outreach and education in Ghana and West Africa. And so with that, I actually have the first talk, I believe, is Proman Khan. Khan? Yeah. Yes, come on up. Woo. All right. All right, and when you take the mic, if you could just say a word about how you got inspired to do this, or if there was a teacher that you thought... Yeah,
sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Proman Khan from Bangladesh, and this is Sihinta Shembil. So we teach kids how to do biotech, immunology, and other stuffs related to molecular biology so that they can invest their time when they go to the university, some other advanced stage biology or biotech stuffs. So our kids, they are basically aged from 4 to 10. So introduction will be done by Sihinta. Then I will come back to you. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. So once again, I'm Sihinta Sabin Shembul, and this is Salman Khan Permon. And we will be representing Biotech for Kids. It's something that we're initiating in Bangladesh. Where's the clicker? Okay, so we're basically representing the organization, the Tech Academy. And our aim is to open a bio wing for this academy, and it's called, we're naming it the BioBots. So who are we, what do we do, and why do we do it? The Tech Academy was founded by Shams Jaber, and it's very basically what I can say is that it's an after-school class or weekend classes for kids aged from 4 to 10 and older. And they're taught robotics, computer programming, software programming, electronics, and so forth. And we plan on extending this and adding biology to it as well. And so it's basically the Tech Academy is a social enterprise that teaches kids various different subjects based in electronics. And just to clarify, I'll be giving like a very brief introduction in what they do in the robotics and electronics area. And he will be explaining what we aim to do for the biology sector. So like most startups, the Tech Academy also had a very bumpy ride. It unofficially began in 2013 in June, and slowly with time, we officially became the Tech Academy in 2015 November. And from then, we started seeing progress. So we have a bunch of kids who are very innovative, very excited to learn, very curious, and we learn a lot from them as well. So they love building things, they love breaking things so they can understand how it works as well. And they've been progressing a lot, so that means a lot to us. So they've been in like TEDx, Dhaka, and everything. So they've been creating things and sharing it with the country and also with the world. And we're also aiming to make our education organization accessible to the underprivileged kids in our country, because our country has a lot of people who cannot afford schooling, so we're trying to make it affordable or accessible to many kids throughout the country. And I think our most recent accomplishment for this year would be attending First Global. So the kids went to Washington this July to represent their robot for the First Global competition. So it's basically a robot that can detect contaminated water from clean water. And I think we can all agree that with technology, biology is also the future. So we really want to aim in teaching our kids both biology and technology. And we believe that instead of just books and classroom environments, when you have a bunch of kids and you leave them to their own devices, when you give them like visual means, when you give them practical means, they can learn a lot and they can really impress you. And that's why we're really looking forward to establishing the BioWing BioBots for the Tech Academy. And the rest will be explained by Salman Kamproman.
Thank you. So as you can see, we have been teaching them how to do programming, robotics, and stuff. Then why not biotech? Firstly, what do you see people, or especially the children, they find programming or robotics more interesting than the biology, because in molecular level, you can see anything. They need to see something moving, or they can make something that's working. That's why what we did, we invited some kids, and here we have Adeline. She went to Bangladesh, and we organized some biohacking workshops in some kind of with a gathering of children. We had 3 years old to 7 or 8 years old children out there, and we went to the universities to do workshops on it. So, but what we look, we found that they are finding it very interesting because they could see the jellies running when we did gel electrophoresis. So for that, we had a problem with the funding because in our country, it's so expensive to buy equipment, biotech equipment. So we had to build our own. We have electrophoresis that's under $1, and we have a microscope. We all have cell phones, then we could make a microscope out of like 50 cents. So that's the course outline. We have to create something that can be more interesting than their biology book, or maybe as much as interesting. So thing is, we designed that the course will contain genetic and genetic engineering, microbiology, immunology, and industrial biotech. But how to make it interesting? Okay, the thing is, we use the Lego, and with that, per individual part will be integrated into something that can lead to a production. For example, insulin. We will cut gene as from PVC board, and we'll give it to the children. They'll play with that, and in a way, they will eventually learn how to incorporate a gene inside a vector and put it inside any kind of organism. And we will use the teddy bears maybe as a bacteria, and the genes will be as a Lego sets. Like you for insulin gene, you will have the red Lego and something like that. So, and also in our curriculum, you can see day 1 we have a theory class, and in day 2 we have a lab. So here, all the lab classes, we have a specific game, computer game. Those games can be interactive. We haven't built them yet, but the game will be like they will play genetic engineering, they will modify the gene, and they will have outcome. And also goes for the microbiology game of identity. You can see the bacteria would be detected like in different codes. And also we have immunology, game of defense, vaccine development. They can use the Lego sets for binding site or vaccine development. And also industrial, they will produce some specific products. We will tell them to build. So something like that. We don't have any kind of documentation system for that. They will only use the toys and programming and the game to learn biotech. So that's pretty much it. And we will teach them how genetics, genetic engineering, microbiology. I'm sorry, I think for formatting, we missed our line, I guess. Anyway, so this is neuroscience. We had a little bit of the track research. So That's our cerebral palsy. Basically, we are trying to build some accessories or maybe a communicative device for children who have cerebral palsy. So that's our research wing, other than the curriculum. So that's pretty much it. And thank you so much for listening to us. And feedback will be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Next up, Jean-Michel Molinar. Jean-Michel? Ah, thank you. Yeah, super. And while you come up, do you want to share any source of inspiration, whether it's a teacher or an activity or something like that to launch your talk?
Sure. Thank you so much. Source of inspiration. So I think about 10 years ago, someone told me that in about 20 years, if we do our best, he'll be able to build a Star Trek replicator. And I got so excited about that in a way, many of the things I'm doing, this is not the last version. There's a new version on the key. If you can get it up, be cool. And so I sort of wanted to see that happen, and multiple things need to happen to make that happen. That's educate more people and give them technology to work on that kind of stuff. So while we wait to get our slides up, I'm Jean-Michel Molinar. I'm Dutch originally. I currently teach here at Tufts University, not far from here. And I think culturally, I'm currently more French than anything else. So I go through a lot of cultures, and next to my work at Tufts, I also work for a company here downtown called the Fab Foundation. And for that, I actually I travel around quite a lot, and I mainly install Fab Labs. So I much more come from sort of the maker community than the bio community. So I'm new to this in a way, and I think all of you know much more about biology than I do. When they did the sort of test for safety, I actually came 9th place, which kind of scared me. So maybe we should work on that. I was kind of proud, but it also kind of scared me. Again, I don't know about that much about biology. Anyway, so I go to these places, and every time I get to these places, I realize that there's a lot of people who are really very intelligent. Thank you, there we go. And who really can do amazing things. And so outside of this community, I took this picture not very long ago, earlier this year, in the High Commissioner, in the embassy of the High Commissioner for Refugees in Amman, Jordan. And I think this applies to not only, standing with refugees, but to not only this community, but also the community I always used to be part of, the maker community. And it's important to try and sort of integrate them and start to work together. So what I do want to talk about, though, is Bio Academy and where that comes from. Bio Academy, in a way, comes from an evolution of the Fab Academy. And Fab Academy, or how to make almost anything, actually started right here at the MIT. So there's a professor right here called Neil Gershenfeld, who still teaches a course that's called How to Make Almost Anything. It's actually happening right now. And when Fab Labs or maker spaces or spaces with like laser cutters and CNC mills and 3D printers started to sort of spread around the globe, he started to teach that course via video conference to almost anyone who wanted to follow it. And you do your homework locally, so you don't have to come to MIT. And then if you graduate, you sort of learn how to make almost anything, right? So this is what it looked like last year. We had almost 300 students signed up globally in 73 labs in many, many different countries. Only 232 made it to the end, or at least presented at the end. But so this is just to show you that one of the things we're really trying to do is like bring high-level education and bring technology to do very interesting things to people across the globe so that they can start to solve problems locally themselves. And so this, 300 folks you can't fit into any lecture room, be it here at MIT or at Tufts. So this is actually, he promised me the Star Trek replicator with this slide. So this is Neil's slide. This left is computation. And the bizarre thing is if you go from those two gentlemen on the left to where we are now, which is, thousands of computers in this single room, there's only like 30 years between them. So if you would have told those two guys who were actually inventing Unix, which runs on the MacBook that I'm presenting off in a way, they probably would have understood that we would get to where we are now today. The general public probably would have called you crazy if you would have said that. So the Fab Lab or the maker spaces where I'm part of, we sort of put that on par. It's sort of the start of the future. And how long it's going to take us to get to the replicator, no one really knows. And I don't think that Neil was actually the only one who should work on that. I think people like George Church are actually also doing sort of that, but coming from biology. So I took the liberty of adding biology to his slide. The equivalent maybe of the Fab Lab, the fact that technology is getting less and less expensive is just staggering. I was at BGI earlier this year, the Beijing Genomics Institute, and they make that tool there that's about 250,000 American dollars, which is still a lot of money, but it sequences 2 full human genomes every 24 hours, which is like, blew my mind. And then the BioXP is also, you know, relatively inexpensive for what it does, and they even call it a DNA printer, I believe. So the question is like, you know, we're at that biohacker space time, and being able to do those things in our garages. And maybe the equivalent there is that, you know, the astronaut of the future is actually also the spaceship, and the spaceship is the astronaut. Most of the time I tell these kinds of things, people go like, this guy's insane. I actually think that you're the right crowd for this, and you'll go like, yeah, that sounds about right. So I always show these 3 books, like to the people who don't believe it, read any of these 3 books, and you know, you'll get closer to that idea. So, you know, what is BioAcademy? BioAcademy is the implications and applications of synthetic biology. So it's not how to make almost anything, it's how to grow almost anything. And so this is George on a video conference presenting exactly what I'm presenting now. How do you get from how to make to how to grow? And the classes that we're actually going through right now. So this is happening every single Wednesday via video conference. So BioAcademy, where Fab Academy is just one person teaching, is actually an amazing group of people teaching all of these classes from different universities. David teaches many of the classes. We have Kate Adamala, who does amazing work, people from MIT, Tufts, Harvard, but also Ginkgo Bioworks and Epibone and Wyss. And so all these people really teach in a live manner, so it's not that you can just watch the video with a beer on Friday afternoon on your couch. You have to be there at 9 EDT Boston morning every Wednesday, so you can also ask questions to the faculty, you know, bug Megan Palmer about how to do this safely and how can we work better together and stuff like this. And so because I don't really come from biology, I just took the liberty of taking your, you know, central dogma and expanding it to almost everything that's on the entire planet. And so what I like about this is that if you combine Fab Academy and BioAcademy, and we're actually starting to see students who have done both, you start to understand that you can intervene in all of these points, right? You can intervene in molecular biology or in fabrication or in material science or in mining if it comes to inorganics. And you can start to combine all these principles and practices and ideas, and you start to have these ideas from the right that you can actually use on the left to build all sorts of automation and stuff like this. And bringing this stuff to the globe, I think, really is going to help empower people locally to, you know, grow their own food, but also maybe their own education at a certain point, and their own fuels, and also make their own tools to feed their own, the people around them. So another thing about Fab Academy, but also BioAcademy, and most of you will know this guy, actually is that all the students document all their work, and it is open source, it's online, it's available for everyone. And so the idea is also that it's an iterative process. So students from this year have to build on work from students last year, and you can't sort of duplicate, which in traditional universities sometimes still happens. You can't duplicate, you have to improve. It has to improve all the time. So that, you know, comes to design, things like microfluidic devices, and so all the device design and all the ideas and how they get there actually gets put online on their class pages and shared in principle with all of you if you want to look at it. So this is the equivalent in Fab Labs. This is a milling machine made by Jens Divik in Norway, and about 90% of this milling machine he made locally. So he only buys the motors, the cables, and the spindle. And that's it. All of it is made with exactly the same machine, by the way. So, you know, as a little shout out to Urs, who's not here, you can also use a Fab Lab to make generic lab equipment, and you can actually make a lot of these things yourself. So again, this link between maker labs and Fab Labs and bio labs, I think is really important to sort of form a big community and educate everyone also on how to empower people to make these things themselves. So, you know, it's sort of looking at silicon, and I stole these from Joe. and looking at a biofab from bits to cells that actually is starting to be really similar. So we all work with computers and we all have the same sort of starting point. We just end up either with living things or with inorganic objects. And another one, I spoke to a guy from Zyvex Labs, John Randall, a while ago. They're working on atomically precise fabrication. So the idea that you can place single atoms to fabricate devices, and often these are like to do implants in the retina to help blind people see. But then if you look at Kate Adamala from the Adamala lab, she's actually doing very similar work in a way where you really are starting to control matter at a molecular scale. And so as these two get closer to each other, at a certain point we might not even distinguish between our communities anymore. It's just one big family, right? So this is the labs who currently participate this year. If if you still want to participate this year, you're too late. Too bad. If you want to participate next year, please go to the website. We'll do our best to inform you about everything, tell you how it works, what doesn't work, and so I have a little bit of a boring technical slide of how that works. There's a docs.academy.org in which there's a document that's called the Bio Academy Handbook, in which all the information should be available to you and make you understand how this works. And I wanted to hand it over to David because these are the classes and I think you can best explain them.
Just a round of applause for Jean-Michel really quickly. So, actually, John, stay here. So, you may not be aware of this, but one of my side goals is to turn you into a biohacker. You're like well on the way. You know, we're gonna convert it, and I don't know if you're like a fab biohacker in the end. But part of, I think, this is our third iteration doing this, and so the curriculum has kind of gotten better and better, I think, over time. But yeah, we basically kind of go through the full SynBio, design, building DNA, putting them into organisms, testing them into different types of settings, including complex microbial communities, including cell-free systems. And then this year we're doing some really cool stuff with some of the technology developed in Ed Boyden's lab, where we're bringing in expansion microscopy. And for those of you that took the mini microscope workshop, that's one of the big barriers, I think, too, is like fluorescence microscopy. How do we do low-cost fluorescence? And so this year we're building that in, and we're trying to do a thing with the DNA and nanostructure class with William Shih from the Wyss Institute, where we actually are going to try to do expansion microscopy on DNA origami, which would be like a whole new thing, and we'll try to do that through community labs and beat the academics to it. So that's going to be one of our big goals in the biofab and imaging. And then Jean-Michel is as a Tufts and works with Theo Amanetto, so there's a whole kind of silk additive manufacturing work that happens there. And then Kevin Elsvelt and John Glass do kind of a large-scale genome engineering set of courses at the end. And so anyways, it's just been amazing working with Jean-Michel and also with George. But so special surprise guest. So you guys know that George is going to be here tomorrow. He's going to do a fireside chat, but basically it's just going to be Q&A with George for like an hour. But Neil heard about this thing that was happening, and like I sent him a message a little while. I was like, "Oh, Neil, this is BioSummit, just in case." And he immediately was like, "Hey, can I come and talk about Fab Labs and Fab Labs making biolabs?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And so we were chatting like 2 days ago, and so Neil is actually going to come tomorrow, and he's going to hijack part of the fireside, and then we're going to do an hour with Neil and George on Fab Labs and biolabs. I think that's going to be probably 4 to 5 o'clock, like right before the closing session. So that's not on the unconference wall yet, but we'll add it. And anyway, so that's a little surprise that we formulated organically at the end. So anyways, Jean-Michel, thank you so much again to Jean-Michel. And thank you, Natalie.
Thank you. Okay. All right, next up we have Jake Wintermuth, if you would come on up. So I don't know if a Star Trek replicator was what inspired you, but maybe you can say a word or two.
Thanks. What's the clicky thing? How does this work? What do I just do? Okay, got it. Okay, so I might get a little sappy here. I might get a little choked up on stage because my inspirational mentor is here in the room this afternoon. It's Pam Silver, my beloved thesis mentor. Hi, brilliant scientist, beautiful person. Yeah, right. So she was my PhD thesis mentor, and I remember when I was young and naive, and I looked up to her with admiration. How do I learn? How do I become a brilliant biologist? And she took me aside and she said, "Jake, classes suck. They're terrible. don't take classes, never take classes, they stink, don't do it, do things instead. Do research instead. And so that's my inspiration from Pam. And so what did I do? I went and I made a class. But I think this is a class for people who think that classes stink. So this is here's my project, Synthetic Biology 1. So my ambition here today, I want to do 3 things. I want to get everybody hyped for the course. I want you to tell your friends about it and tell your students about it. Then I want to invite you to come and collaborate with us. So we want to showcase your research and your cool devices. And then finally, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the place where I come from, which is the CRI in Paris. And I'm going to try to make it sound really, really good so that you will want to apply for some of the funding that we have to offer for people just like you to come and work for us there for a while. But without further ado, here is the MOOC. Here is my MOOC. Here we are looking cool in the hype trailer, slow motion. We got, yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So we're sponsored in part by the, uh-oh. We're sponsored in part by the, oops, hold on. No, you gotta see this, it's so good. By the city of Paris. Okay, so that means we get to go on location to all these really cool landmarks. You know, I'm on a boat. I'm up in a hot air balloon. I'm in a tower, whatever. You know, and we're just having a great time. And we do videos on sort of all of the content that connects to synthetic biology. So that means it's molecular biology, it's DNA design, it's modeling, it's ethics and human practices. And what we have to offer so far. We have about 60 videos that we've made, organized into 5 courses, and they're available online right now. So I'll just linger on this slide for a moment if you want to note the lingering on the slide so you can see the thing. And it's available now, so we can go. Let's go check it out here. Since I have you here, maybe we can learn something. I will go to the website. Ah, there it is, yes. So here it is. So this is the website. Watch the hype trailer. Synthetic biology is great. Everybody should do it. Yada, yada, yada. What am I going to learn in this course? We have stuff for teachers and journalists. Synthetic biology is good. And then we go down to the bottom. And we have the courses. And maybe we'll take this one, how to make your first GMO. And now all of the little modules that you see on the course are either a short video, or a quiz, or an educational game that you can play. And so maybe we'll do, what do we feel like learning? Maybe we'll do one of these. Logistic collector. This is a little, a flash game that we made to teach logistic growth. So you've got a logistic growth curve in there, and you can change the parameters to change the shape of the curve, and then you collect the candies, and you win the game. Do it. Yes. There. Very nice. Woo. Cool. So the basic philosophy of the course, so there's 2 things that we emphasize. So first, we really emphasize modularity. All of the videos are modular. They don't refer to earlier content or later content, which means they can be taken out and remixed and used in other contexts, right? So whatever in your courses, if you're not doing the same projects that we are, the videos are still useful. And the other thing is versatility. So we really want to expand the traditional sort of pipeline of education in synthetic biology. We want to honor the fact that not everybody who comes to this field wants to do a PhD and be an academic researcher, right? So my dream is that we can have, you know, journalists and farmers and doctors and activists and maybe even anti-GMO activists, right, who can come to a course like this, engage with the video content on their own terms, right, as much as they want or as little as they want, and then have a sort of network that can connect them to this other great educational content, right? So maybe they do a BioBuilder, maybe they do a How to Grow, maybe they join an iGEM team, whatever they want to do, right? Because the more different pathways we can give people to the top of this sort of staircase, the more enriched the community is going to be. So the course is going pretty well. We got 1,000 signups in the first 3 months, mostly from the United States. France doesn't like us that much. I don't know why, but we're pretty popular in Spain and Russia. And so one thing that's a big deal for me is I really want to expand the global part of the course. And so part of that means producing content in native languages. So here's, this was done with the help of the Hong Kong University iGEM team. Save the audio. Oh no, oh the voiceover is so good.
Always give it away.
第一，佢由起始密碼字 ATG 開始。呢三個核苷酸會話俾核糖體知由邊度開始砌蛋白質。喺一啲罕見嘅情況下，蛋白質都會由其他密碼字開始組合，但呢啲情況太複雜，不良原理都冇問題。事關我哋係工程師唔係科學家，結果先至係最緊要。為咗方便我哋上堂，我哋
And then the other thing that we really need to do is if we're going to reach sort of 1 million people, with these education initiatives, we need a community of thousands of biohackers, right? So we need people like you to get together in a Stack Exchange or a GitHub or some sort of a vibrant internet community where people can go get feedback on their projects and get their questions answered. And I think that maybe once we have something like that that's really, really cooking, then we'll be a movement. And so in my last minute here, I just want to tell you a little bit about where I come from. So there's Europe, and then zooming in here, whoa, we can find Paris. And then if you go right into the heart of Paris, you can find the Montparnasse Tower, which is the second most famous tower in the city of Paris, and that's where the CRI is located, the CRI. That's the Center for Research and Interdisciplinarity. So we're about 10 years old. Those are our founders, Ariel and Francois. So we do basic research. We do educational outreach with courses like this. And what else do we do, slide? There it is. And we do teaching. So we have undergraduate programs, we have master's programs, and PhDs. And we will be moving from Montparnasse Tower across town to the Marais, which is like the hippest, oh man, it's so sweet. It's like the sweetest neighborhood in Paris, where we're renovating a new facility for July. So it's gonna be 60,000 square feet. It's gonna have 60 benches. It's gonna have biohacker spaces. It's gonna have regular old hacker spaces. It's going to have classrooms and even student housing. Okay, so we're moving in here starting in July, and so to populate this, we're offering right now CRI fellowships. So you can get funding and a research budget to come and work with us for a period of as little as 6 months. And I think the next call for those is in January. And so you guys, you are our people, and we love you, and we want to see you, and I hope you'll come and join us.
Thank you. That was excellent. All right. Next, we are halfway done with talks. We'll have Kim de Moura starting us off, and then Thomas Ladraine finishing up this one next talk. Kim, do you want to say a word or two about how you got into all this? What inspires you?
Yeah. This is going to be kind of an interesting story. So I got into synthetic biology through iGEM in 2006. I originally trained as a mechanical engineer, and then by virtue of iGEM, I kind of completely changed the direction of my field. Interestingly enough, they're both here. So at the 2006 Jamboree, I spoke to Pam, and Pam encouraged me to apply for some funding to come work in her lab. So I worked for it in Scotland for a year, and then went to Pam's lab, where I completely dropped everything that I was doing and changed projects, and my advisor became Jake. So Jake and Pam are basically responsible for training me with basically all the biology knowledge that I have now. And so I was supposed to stay for 6 months, and I ended up staying for a year in Pam's lab, which was really nice. And at the end of the year, I did a group meeting, and it's still one of the best compliments I've ever gotten to this day. And Pam said, well, you can walk the walk and you can talk the talk. So I spent a year in a Harvard lab and basically learned biology. So that's my introductory story. So thanks guys. So could I just get a show of hands for everybody who has volunteered at iGEM, judged, participated, advised, been an advisor? So basically, if you haven't heard about iGEM, ask the person next to you. We're at this competition. We have 310 teams from 44 countries this year, about 5,500 people, and we're going to be expecting just over 3,000 of them at the Heinz in November, the 9th to the 13th. So I just want to go over a couple of projects that have come out of iGEM from Community Biolabs. And you guys saw Dave talk about Street Bio this morning, the East Meets West team. And he's already said everything that I possibly could say, but I just wanted to highlight that it was just an amazing project, and it's got a whole bunch of really cool outcomes that are going to continue to happen. And it's Dave on the right there presenting in Singapore. GenSpace 2016. GenSpace were the first team to use tardigrades in iGEM. And so they were working on, I believe, looking at the proteins that give them desiccants resistance and trying to put them into culture to make bacteria better. They also won the measurement award last year, which was amazing for a community biolab. They did a great job. We've got the Denver Biolab guys who worked on an oxytocin sensor and also made a bunch of kind of low-cost lab equipment. So that's a great other project to check out. And then, so there are people here from all of these teams, by the way. So if you want to chat and find out more, please just go chat to them. So this was the Tech Museum team. I'm not going to lie, we were surprised when a museum signed up to be a part of iGEM. We were not expecting that when we opened the program to Community Biolabs. And they did a really cool program where they had this plasmid that would express various different hues, so you ended up with this bright rainbow range of colors, and they opened it to the public, and people came in and did experiments, and I think we get to see a demo of that later on today, maybe. And then finally, the 2014 Counterculture Labs and BioCurious team, these guys made real vegan cheese. You probably have heard of the project, and they did a Kickstarter campaign. The first perk, the first stretch goal was narwhal cheese. I'd love to hear how far you guys got with that. But they ran the most successful Kickstarter campaign or Indiegogo campaign in the history of iGEM, and they raised $37,369. So there are ways of raising money by using iGEM as a vehicle and stuff like that. So here's a few of the other teams that we've had over the years, and so we've had a whole bunch of community biolab teams. We'd love to have more. Tama and I are going to be doing a breakout session, and hopefully over in the theater afterwards. So come chat if you want to ask me, literally ask us anything about that. And so after iGEM is sponsoring this meeting, so what's after iGEM? It's basically, think of it as a kind of a LinkedIn for iGEM participants. If you've participated in iGEM in the past, you can sign up and we'll give you your user account. And you can see up there, it's kind of in beta. We are still kind of building out the program, and we're offering a whole bunch of opportunities. We do meetup events. We're working to get job postings up in here as well, because employers know that iGEMers have a lot of kind of really good skills that are very useful. And so there's a whole program that I'm also going to talk about afterwards. So on that note, the Jamboree is the 9th to the 13th of November this year over at the Heinz. The judging roster is full, but we're still looking for volunteers, and if you want to come hang out, come speak to me. On that note, Thomas.
Hey everyone. So this is kind of new for me. I joined iGEM just like a couple of weeks ago. But so I will start by sharing how I came actually to be within that community, and actually that started with iGEM. And so when I was still doing my master in Paris, and I heard about synthetic biology, I mean, I immediately knew that what was taught, not only to understand biology, but actually to be able to manipulate it. It blew my mind. I really want to do that. I really want to learn about it. There was no place actually to learn about it in Paris at the time. So with friends, we came together and we decided to create a club, a synthetic biology club, where we would gather every 2 weeks and learn about the science being done in synthetic biology. And this was in 2006. And the only place that would welcome us was actually the CRE. So we gathered with other students, not necessarily actually at the CRE, and we learned about synthetic biology, and of course, iGEM. And out of the people in that club, we created the first French iGEM team that participated in 2007. And actually, in 1 week, we're going to celebrate this 10 years anniversary at the CRE. So yeah, it's kind of a cycle in a loop here. It's funny. When, like, few months ago, somehow, like, we came close with iGEM, and we really decided to see how we could expand, the current impact of iGEM. And I have both a background in synthetic biology, in biohacking, but I left La Payas in the beginning of this year to start exploring, how we could create new ways of doing open collaborations beyond academia. And when iGEM came to me and said that they're really interested in expanding their model and experimenting on new paths, and inviting me to join them and help them explore those paths, I couldn't resist. So I joined them, and basically my job will be to see how to make this work. How many of you in that room have already participated in iGEM, part of a community lab? And so probably some of you, or another question, how many of you would like to participate in iGEM, being part of a community lab? Better, okay. So, probably for many reasons, you couldn't find a way. And one of them, the first answer usually is, it's too expensive. So the thing is, as you probably understand, the cost of iGEM is what makes iGEM possible. So that's not something that we could actually change, otherwise that would change the quality of the overall competition. So we really have to think about how to change the way to enter iGEM. And nowadays, it's been there for about 13 years. Usually it starts with a local team, being part of university, or with advisors, part of a research team doing synthetic biology research. But somehow the community lab model doesn't really apply very well, to this approach. So, and because the DIY Bio community is clearly a very interesting platform and a leader in exploring how to do, like decentralized collaboration. I think that the best way actually to make those two communities work together is by changing the rules. And one thing we would like to explore with you, and this is a very serious proposition here, is to explore together how to create what we could call distributed teams. So that the incentive to create an iGEM team won't be because you're in the same place, same physical place, but because you want to work on a similar problem. So let's imagine we could actually, with the help of iGEM, create like a huge forum where we work together in trying to figure out what are the biggest challenges that DIY Bio could take on. And then we will decide and vote on the best project there, and we just gather actually people that would want to help out. And then these teams won't have to be in one single location, and then it would be probably much more easy for participants from community lab, where it's hard actually to find the correct, I would say, critical mass of participants to create a team, to be able to join a project. So basically, the breakout session that we will have with Kim just after this will be about figuring out how we can organize this with the DIY Bio community. Who would be interested in joining such a session, for example? And so what's interesting also is that this can be applied not only to DIY Bio community, but also DIY Bio community members, but also to people within being part of academia, but that don't have necessarily a team. So it's really, how do you make iGEM a leader of inclusive research? How do we make even more people being able to join iGEM, experience iGEM, and move along and move forward thanks to iGEM in their career path? So yeah, I think that's basically what I wanted to say. It's really an invitation. It's an exploration. It's open. We really want to work with you guys, and I know you will be very motivated probably because you've been looking for ways to enter iGEM. You know the value of iGEM. So yeah, that will be my final words, and see you at the breakout session. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. And now we have Connie Chow coming on up to talk about her new program. Do you want to say a word or two about what inspired you and who and what got you where you are?
Sure. Thanks, Natalie. And thanks, David, for this awesome conference. Natalie is awesome. I love BioBuilder. I will say two people, actually. One is my grandmother. She had a 6th grade education from China, but she was a maker at heart. Like she would make her own designs for her clothes and for oral clothes. She did my domestic science homework, and you know, you would always see her with a pair of pliers trying to fix things in the house. And I didn't even think about that until recently when people ask me the question like, who inspired you to like just do stuff? And I'm like, well, my grandmother. The other is actually my university professor, William Bradshaw. My grandmother's name is Yun San. Dr. Bradshaw would not only inspire me in his lab, but he actually would get visibly angry at the university when he found out that guys wouldn't date me because I was a microbiology major, because that means that I was too smart. And he got me into graduate school as well. So anyway, I'm happy to be here. Harry is a friend, and I'm glad that he got to participate. Yay, yay. And thanks, David, for making it possible for him to do so. So, Etasen, you're like, what? That is in Twi, which is one of the languages in Ghana. I'd say, how are you? And if you're well, you would say, aye. So, Etasen? We'll hold the same, and then you would say back, how are you? And then I will say, yeah. Anyway, so it took me a long time to learn, but those little phrases actually earned me a lot of points when I walked down the villages, etc. So the exploratory, I've been going to Ghana for about 8 years, and started the exploratory about 3 years ago after I left Science Club for Girls, which Natalie mentioned, and that Science Club for Girls was based here. And I think my one single point of outcome from that organization is when a parent wrote us and said, ever since my kindergartner joined the Science Club for Girls, our kitchen has not been the same since. So, next, okay, I gotta find it. Here, okay. This is Accra, Ghana, okay? Airport city, beautiful. Highly developed. This is also Ghana. This is most of the places where we, the exploration and laboratory, work in. So we do 3 different things in Ghana. We train teachers, they run clubs for us, and provide the materials for them to run these science clubs. Before I tell you that, I also want to tell you some of the things that the exploratory mission. Our mission is to make STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math, joyful, relevant, collaborative, and equitable. And our values that we think about all the time, that we want to build in our students and our teachers, include curiosity, courage, and community. And when we do our work in those 3 areas that I just mentioned, that's what we think about. So, as I mentioned, we do a lot of training with our teachers. We work with teachers and students who are in grades 4 up to junior high school. And they're, like, as I mentioned, they're in public schools, so we have about 600 students. And to date, we have trained about 70 teachers who continuously work with us. And these are some of the things that we've introduced to them, obviously, whether they're building really simple models that they typically don't have, or whether they're building functional models of the digestive system, whether we're introducing computer and related resources to them, or introducing a science set. What we're really trying to get them is not only to get them to be familiar with materials, but in my sense, the most important thing was for them to experience love, friendship, fun. Because joy is such an important component of what they need and we would like them to experience. This is a group of our girls lighting a light bulb, making a circuit. Do you remember the first time you've actually made a circuit light up? You remember that sense of joy that you had? And that is a really important experience for the girls in particular that we work with, because they've been told all their lives, most of the time, that they cannot, that they don't belong in science, and they can't do anything. And the sense of agency that those of you, of course, if you've been a biohacker space, etc., when you've made something, that is an important feeling that we try to instill in them. And of course, a sense of community, etc. So we wanted the three things sort of like, I am a scientist, I can interrogate the world and ask questions and make things happen, and I belong to a community of people. And this sort of started some of the work that I was doing. This is the entirety of the belongings of a science lab at a junior high school in the middle of Accra. It's a government school that was sort of in the back of a posh area in Osu, if anybody's been to Accra. But when I asked them what materials did they have, one of the science teachers rolled this out and said, that's what we have. Broken down equipment, some old chemicals, who knows what they are, not inventoried, right? And then when we go to the National Science Center, well, those of you who are hackerspaces know that. Sort of like, that camping stove that you have, that's essentially their Bunsen burner, right? They call this a bobo that you find at the market for like maybe 30 cents. And you can get somebody to make you this stand for a little, maybe 40 cents, and then you have chicken wire, and there you go, you have your Bunsen burner. But, so, a couple of the things that I want to talk about, though, is going back to this idea that, how do we think about, the mission of our organization, making STEM education relevant, joyful, equitable, collaborative, and pair it to love, right? Well, this idea that, like, oh, we can't talk about love, we're talking about science. What are you talking about? But a couple ideas that we try to explore. When we make our curriculum, when we make our materials, etc., relevant to the kids, they build this sense of identity that I just mentioned, right? I also mentioned the agency that they have, and then the sense of community, that their love is not only around their confidence and their ability, it's around their immediate community, but also they begin to ask, what is the purpose for doing all these things? And maybe it's just for fun, that's okay too, but it gets them asking this question. So I like this, Gloria said, she said, science makes me happy, creative, and want to do things on my own. That's sort of really what encapsulates what we think. So how else do we make the curriculum relevant? Certainly we've gone, and I'll tell you a little bit. One of the things that we did this past May was a design competition for our 600 kids, insane, like in 4 different locations one weekend and then the final. And the design challenge was them to create something to solve the solution of doomsaw. Doomsaw means off-on. That refers to the power outages that they experience all the time. And so they received some new science sets, which I'll talk about in a minute, and then they went about and designed different solutions. They learned about and then presented it and shared with each other. And it included things like as you see here, windmills. I don't know what they're doing. There was like a watch. This is a electro-brine saltwater generator, and simple lights that they have. But it puts into practice what they have learned, as all the teachers used to say, and the students also used to say, what they used to learn in the abstract, where everything that they learned was just drawn on the board, hardly not even a textbook. Another thing that when we talk about is when we compare combined curiosity and community, we get students to think about citizenship. As we all know, right, here we sit here, we understand a lot of the decisions, a lot of the political decisions, a lot of the technological advancements is based in science and technology. And in order for us to be democratic, to participate actively in democracy, we need to actually understand what some of these are. And so I was most pleased one time when I was talking to a group of girls, and afterwards I talked about the responsibility of using science for good, and they came up to me and said, well, if that is the case, why do people make guns? I didn't really have an answer for her. I mean, we had a discussion. But those are the type of questions that, that we are also hoping to bring to the students, right? And the teachers as well. Okay. So relevant and equitable is something that I also think about a lot. So relevant, maybe because they're affordable, we can find it in Ghana. So when we first started, these are the things like I would run around to the market and say, okay, little shop here, can I buy some wire, can I buy some nails, etc. And then luckily we have a guy now, Charles Ofori-Entepem, who in the last couple of years has designed a science set. He's Ghanaian, lives in Kumasi, friend of Harry. And so because we have a grant, we are able to purchase these science sets. And I have one here somewhere, where basically it allows the kids to learn electronics. And it's my way of thinking about, as I was Thomas, and I'm thinking about capital reallocation, so that, we're now purchasing something that is actually designed and made and benefiting a particular Ghanaian inventor that also benefits our kids. We have gone from very simple, use a water drop as a magnifier, to, simple hand lenses, to bring in them microscopes. And again, this idea of, what does relevant and equitable mean? Does it only mean just, whatever you can scrounge when we're talking about majority world countries? Or is it really trying to say, what, as much as we can, we'll try to bring them top-of-the-art equipment, or at least an understanding of them. Okay, I will move. So that's the question that I think I have. And Tomas and I, will have an unconference tomorrow morning at 9. It's called Biohacking and STEM Education for, justice, empowerment, and development. So we hope you can come. And I'm just going to end with this. This is these are our wonderful teachers. Again, it's really important to us to think about, this idea of STEM plus love and how we make a better world and how we develop the leaders within Ghana to support our work. Thank you. And we're looking for partners at all times.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Connie. What wonderful work. All right, the last speaker for this session is Niek Dont. Is he here? Yes, excellent. Thank you. Come on up. Do you want to mention why you got into this and what inspires you, and then launch? Yeah.
Sure. I was just going to ask Sarah because we're doing a breakout session later. Sarah, if you'd like to join, you don't have to. Cool. So what got me into this, it's pretty crazy actually, because it was just 2 years ago I entered a competition called FameLab. For the people who don't know it, it's a competition where researchers have to talk about their research in 3 minutes to a non-scientific audience. And I sort of got a lot of energy from seeing people react to cool stuff in science, and I thought, well, I want to do more of that. And so I keep getting inspired by kids asking weird-ass questions that grown-ups are afraid to ask about science.
Okay, so I only recently heard the term biohacking a few months ago, and I'm on board completely as soon as I understand what is this. But I guess my inspiration is my parents. I was born in Cleveland, and when I was 3, they walked off the grid. They would move to the middle of nowhere in northwest Arkansas, and we lived with no electricity or running water, and this was their choice because they didn't want to raise children in downtown Cleveland. So they're very much walk off the grid people like all of us, basically. So they're doing something different. They believe in it. They're going to do their own thing. Then they had to do things without electricity, which is hard. All these things that they're hard without electricity and running water and things. So anyway, they're very resourceful. And so I guess that combined with my first biology class in college, I fell in love with biology, Bio 1. I went in undeclared, and I immediately went and I said biology, microbiology. So I guess between my parents and that, then I'm here, sort of. And I hear the word a few months ago. Okay, go ahead.
Cool. So I noticed we're already running a little bit late, so I'm not going to talk too much about what I do because I already told it in Hello World. But basically, we have this non-profit organization that's called E. coli, and it develops science activities for classrooms. And it focuses very heavily on experience-based learning, and fascination is always the goal. And we have sort of this pipeline where we look at themes that are missing in education or that are maybe now a little bit boring. We brainstorm around a new topic, like for example, now we're working on one around astrobiology. Anyone can come and collaborate and brainstorm on that workshop. We develop it, then we test it in schools, we tweak it, and when we know that it works perfectly, we teach teachers how to bring these activities into their classroom. We try to focus very heavily on things that are very easily available and cheap, because we know a lot of teachers want to do cool new stuff, but they don't have time and they don't have money. So we want to make it as easy for them as possible. And then apart from that, E. coli also focuses very heavily on underprivileged groups. So we do science activities and projects with people who are mentally challenged, kids who come from difficult socioeconomic backgrounds and stuff like that. If you want to know more and if you want to discuss, come to our breakout session in a bit.
In particular, I have a love for homeschool students too, so I don't know if any of you are interested in that aspect. I teach homeschool students, and so yeah, I'd like to discuss how to get K through 12 activities, not only to public school underprivileged, but to homeschool students who really are a bit lacking in science, I guess. Yeah. So hope you come discuss with us, please. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much. So really, what a remarkable diversity of opportunities for educating, teaching, learning, just the broadest of communities. I love that it is motivated through inspiration that people find in the field, through equitable distribution of information and access to this, and that this generates and initiates with a sense of love for learning, for making the world a better place. So thank you. Thank you to all of the speakers. Can I have a round of applause for all of the speakers in this session? Thank you. I know a number of them have breakout sessions, and I think David is going to speak for just a minute about the logistics of doing some of that. Thank you.
One more time for Natalie Dell, everyone, for doing an amazing job. Holding it down as always, the force of nature, Natalie Dell. Okay, so really quickly again, so we're going to do 3 breakouts on education and learning. The one request that I have actually is, since after this we basically are going to have dinner, why don't we do the report back on education and learning today, if that's okay? So that way we can kind of go through that while it's all fresh in our minds and save that from tomorrow. So have your breakout. You've got about 40 minutes to do it, and then come back here at 6. We'll do a quick report back, and then just a little teaser. We actually have a very, I don't know how this day has evolved, but we have all these like special guests that are like, coming in, and we have another very special kind of thing that we're gonna do to close this all out that you're definitely not gonna wanna miss. That's all kind of advertise it as that. So, but it involves Switzerland, maybe some cows being milked, it looked like there was some electrical shocking or something. I can't even explain it. You just have to experience it for yourself. And then a bunch of our participants are going to do some storytelling on stage. The whole thing will last 5 minutes, okay? But it's just going to be awesome. That's all I can say about it. So with that, you just heard the plug for the breakout from Sarah and Niek. So I'll give you this, I don't even know what bacteria this is, but it is mounted and ready. And I don't know, are there any more of these? We need one more of these if anybody else has a third one. Or you can just kind of, use your own microbiome. This one's for Thomas. Oh, wow, you have a staff of some kind. Okay, oh my God, oh my God. Yes, Jake, okay. So do you guys want to just plug your breakout really quickly again for 10 seconds of what you're going to do?
It's all about how to make iGEM and JavaBio work together. So it's going to be in the auditorium close to the elevators. Join us. It's going to be a fascinating discussion.
This is what every biohacker needs to know. We're going to make a crazy, sprawling list of Post-it notes and then bring order to it somehow.
Okay, go have fun. Come back at 6. Thank you guys.